I made over $12,000 coordinating the movement of everyday products like toilet paper, and I don't own a single truck. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how that's possible, how the business model works, why companies pay people like me to do this, and what you actually need to get started. And don't worry, you don't need trucks, you don't need industry experience, and you don't need some massive setup to make this work. So let's jump in. Point number one, the deal that changed everything. Let me tell you about a phone call that turned into $500,000 in profit. I was scrolling Google Maps one day looking for local manufacturers and distribution companies. No referral, no connection. I just picked up the phone and started calling. I found a company shipping everyday consumer products like toilet paper, paper products, box goods, just pretty boring stuff. But here's the thing, their problem wasn't finding cheap rates. Their problem was damaged shipments, denied claims, carriers passing blame back and forth. They were constantly reshipping damaged products and at their own expense because nobody else would take the responsibility when something went wrong. They told me straight up, brokers just quote rates and disappear. Nobody actually listens to what we need. So instead of trying to be the cheapest broker, I built a specific solution for them. And I told them, if something gets damaged, you'll get reimbursed without fighting carriers for months. So I started coordinating their LTL freight moves. I selected carriers that were experienced with fragile freight. I handled proper classification and documentation, made sure to get every shipment set up for success and include insurance, third-party insurance, so that they wouldn't have to deal with the carrier directly when a claim came up. The crazy part about it is my margins on these shipments averaged around 30%. So how long did this take? Well, it was about a month and a half after that first phone call to the first paid load. And that single relationship has now made me over $500,000 in profit over the last handful of years that we've been working together. So this is the lesson that I learned. This business does not reward perfection. It doesn't reward having everything figured out before you start. It rewards solving real problems for real companies. One good relationship can completely change your income. The phone call you're avoiding right now could be worth $500,000. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how does this actually work? What's the business model here? Well, let me break that down so simple a 12-year-old could understand it. Point number two, how the business model actually works. The business model is so simple, it sounds too good to be true. But imagine two businesses. One company in Ohio manufacturing dog food. They've got 10 pallets sitting in the warehouse that they need to get to a distribution center down in Texas. They don't actually own their own trucks. They don't want to have to manage drivers, none of that stuff. They don't want to call 20 different carriers hoping that someone picks up the phone and actually gives them a rate. On the other side, there are trucking companies with empty space on their truck that are already heading towards Texas anyway. These two sides need each other, but they don't actually know each other, and that's where the freight broker comes in. The broker finds a carrier that has enough space for those 10 pallets, negotiates the rate, coordinates the pickup and delivery, handles all the paperwork and communication, and the shipper gets their problem solved. The carrier gets paid because they now have a full truck, and the broker gets paid for making everything happen. And here's what's wild about this. Boom, you never touch the product, you never drive the truck, you just coordinate value. You are the middleman who makes the entire supply chain work. And here's the best part. Companies don't care about your followers. They don't care about a personal brand. They don't care if you've ever posted a single thing on Instagram in your life. They care about one thing, getting their products delivered on time and safely, ideally. But here's what most people don't understand about why this works. Why would companies pay you to do this? What's the actual value? And that leads us to point number three, why companies actually pay you. Most people think shippers only care about cheap rates, but that is completely wrong. What shippers actually care about is reliability, communication, damage prevention, and accountability. Shipping mistakes are typically very expensive. A damaged pallet doesn't just cost freight, it can shut down a business's entire production. Delayed orders to their customers, upset those customers, destroy their margins. And that $500,000 client I told you about, they didn't just stay with me because I was the cheapest. They stayed because I listened to their problems. I asked better questions than the other brokers they'd worked with, and I built a solution around damage claims and reimbursement instead of just throwing the lowest rate and then disappearing. Long story short, I made their life much easier. They weren't paying me to move freight. They were paying me to reduce stress and risk. And that's why brokers exist. That's why this business model works. You're not selling cheap rates, you're selling peace of mind. Now you might be thinking, that sounds great, but what do I actually need to do to get started? Don't I need trucks or industry experience or some massive setup? Well, let me tell you what I wish someone had told me when I first got started. Point number four, this is what you actually need and what you don't. When I first got started, I thought I needed a website, a logo, industry credibility, years of experience, but that was dead wrong. I spent time worrying about the things that didn't matter, building a perfect brand, looking official, waiting until everything felt ready. But what actually made me the money that I was looking for was conversations, following up with people, asking better questions. I didn't have any trucks. I didn't have drivers. I did not have a fancy setup. I didn't have any industry connections at that time. I learned by doing, just like every broker does. And this business does not reward perfection. It doesn't reward branding and it doesn't reward waiting until you feel ready. It rewards people who take action, people that communicate well, people that have decent problem solving skills. You don't need to know everything about trucks or logistics. You just need to follow a process, ask the right questions, and solve real problems. And here's what you actually need. Number one, a phone and the willingness to have conversations. Number two, Google Maps so that you can find companies that ship products. Number three, a process for asking the right questions. And four, follow through and communication skills. That's it. So if you want help building this type of business and learning the exact process I use to find clients and close deals, there's a link to our private community in the description. Hope to see you in there. Until next time, we'll see you in the next one.